Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado. It's good to see you, Senator.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. 1 month before the Iowa caucuses, 1 month before New Hampshire, a critical state for you, you will likely be in Washington, and you could be there for weeks. We don't know how this is going to play out. What does that mean for you and your campaign?
We obviously, all of us have a constitutional obligation we have to fulfill, and there's just no way around that. So what we're trying to do is 50 town halls in New Hampshire before they start to vote on primary day, and one way or another we're going to find a way to get that done. Obviously this makes it more challenging, but there's a lot at stake in both the election and in this impeachment trial, and so we're going to have to figure out how to walk and chew gum at the same time.
It might be hard when you're not going to be able to walk at all. You literally might be in Washington for weeks. I mean, it could be the entire month of January. We don't know. I mean, do you think you're going to be able to pull off and keep your commitment to voters in New Hampshire with those 50 town halls? I mean, at some point, you can't be in two places at once.
You can't be in two places at once, which is why I'm going to spend as much time between now and then in New Hampshire. But it is what it is. We have a responsibility, all of us, that we've got to fulfill. There's no one else to fulfill that responsibility. And my hope is that what will come out of this is a reacquaintance with all of us as Americans about why the rule of law is so important and the fact that nobody, including the president, is above the rule of law.
So Senator Schumer, he's laying out today his opening bid, if you will, for how he'd like to see the trial proceed in the Senate. This would include testimony from folks like Mick Mulvaney and John Bolton. To get that to get Republicans to go along with that, since they are in the majority, would you be willing to negotiate on witnesses that Republicans would like to call during the trial as well?
I suppose it depends on who those witnesses are, but sure, you know, it's amazing. These are witnesses that the White House should have supplied as a matter of course because the Congress asked to hear them. The president is hiding behind this invented executive privilege, and it's made it very hard for us to find out what really happened. You know, he's obstructing and he's stonewalling. This will give us the opportunity to hear important witnesses. And what's amazing to me is if everything was as President Trump says it is, why hasn't he put these witnesses in front of the Congress? And I think the answer is going to turn out that everything is not the way he says it is. He's trying to downplay this. He's telling his supporters there's nothing to see here. But I think we're going to find out that it's a pretty serious thing when the President of the United States tries to extort a foreign leader and get them to interfere in our elections.
Look, you pose it.
I don't think that's going to wear well.
You pose an important question. You also lay out how important that you think it is to get the likes of Mulvaney and Bolton and others to testify. If it is so important, what about Hunter Biden? Would you trade? I don't know. It's strange to call it a trade, but that's essentially what it is. Like, would you be willing to go along with Hunter Biden being called to testify to get Mulvaney and Bolton in?
I don't think Hunter Biden is going to be able to shed any light at all on the president's extortion scheme with respect to
maybe not. But would you go along with getting him in there in the seat?
No, I don't. I think that's going to do nothing to elucidate the truth here, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm sure that the president will try to turn this into a show trial. I'm sure he'll try to turn it into a circus. His whole 2 years in Washington has been a circus. I mean, Kate, we do have to get through this process, and we got to do it in a way, I think, that reflects our commitment to the rule of law, as I said earlier. But it's a reminder why having a president who just sows chaos every day, day in and day out, is not only wasting the time of the American people, it's creating a real issue for America's place in the world. And so we've got to make a change. We've got to do what's necessary on this impeachment hearing. Yeah. And then I think we're going to have to move on to November and beat Donald Trump.
So let me ask you about a question about the primary. There's a group of Democratic candidates who appealed to the chairman of the DNC this weekend to change the requirements that have been laid out to making it on the debate stage. All the reporting that I've seen is that you are not on this letter. Correct me if you are. But you have long been critical of the debate requirements. We've talked about this. Do you support kind of what they are asking? Tom Perez, either putting in the requirements as either donors or polling, not both?
I do support it. I think that you know, if you spend any time in New Hampshire, Iowa, and South Carolina, what you will discover is that people actually are less sure of their who they're voting for today than they were 6 weeks ago or 6 months ago or even a year ago. 76% of Democrats today in the most recent national polling say that they haven't made up their minds. And I am at 1% in the polls, but I have built my campaign to last until people in Iowa and New Hampshire start casting their votes. For the DNC to be prematurely weeding out who should be on the debate stage or not, I think we're going to look back at this and say this was ridiculous, and it was a self-inflicted wound by the DNC. I used to think that I was self-interested in saying this, and I just had my feelings hurt because I wasn't on the debate stage. I actually have come to believe it is compromising our chances to nominate somebody who can actually beat Donald Trump, which is why I've stayed in the race.
Look, you point out where you are in the polls. Just one final question. No matter if there's no choice in it at all, are you facing a reality where you're going to have to be off the campaign trail some because of impeachment? Is that going to hurt you?
I hope not, but I have my first responsibility is to deal with the impeachment trial in the Senate.
Yeah.
Between now and then, though, we are beginning a fundraising campaign today to raise $700,000 to get our ads up in New Hampshire. I'm going to do those 50 town halls from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood in New Hampshire. And you know, at some point, if people say we're voting and we're not interested in Michael Bennet, I'll have to take account of that. In the meantime, I want to make sure I've done absolutely everything I can do to ensure that the Democratic Party is nominating somebody who can beat Donald Trump by winning in purple states. If we can't do that, we're going to lose to this guy again, which would be, you know, shameful for us to do. There's just too much at stake.
Senator, thanks for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate it.
Thank you.